Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind. Too often, we forget that enforcement is not just a job for which we are hired as one would hire a laborer. It involves a sworn duty. Service involves dedication and sacrifice of the giving of oneself. These are words that many find hard to swallow in his present day and age, but the job of professional law enforcement requires a special breed of men to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder. We must, however, understand some of the limitations that are present in a truly democratic society. In such a society as ours, this task can be a difficult one because protecting the rights of the criminal, this is sometimes a hard pill for law enforcement officer to swallow. It's easy to an officer to become bitter when he has continually witnessed the ends of justice thwarted by red tape politics and technicalities of the law. The more truly idealistic he is, the more frustrated he can become, especially if he lacks a philosophy or understanding of his true purpose in society which he serves. To respect the constitutional rights of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. Respecting the rights of others is not one of man's natural qualities. It seems to be part of his nature of suspect and persecute justice on this earth. Man, now, will there be ever be, because man is not all knowing, nor is he himself perfect. Still, we must strive for a form of justice that represents our ultimate capability. This involvement not only great on part of every person in the community, but individual sacrifice as well. I will keep my private life unsoiled as an example to all. One of the first things that a law enforcement officer must learn is that he has no private life. Every citizen should be entitled to his own private life, yet, when a person accepts the calling of law enforcement as a voluntary measure, he must be willing to obtain his privacy as a sacrifice to the good of the community which he serves. I am law enforcement officer could hide from his neighbors the fact that he is a policeman. Then his private life could be his own. If a policeman has a family, his occupation will be known in the neighborhood within a few days at the most. If he singles and keeps to himself, he may keep his secret a little longer, but if he is engaged in active law enforcement within his community, it is inevitable that his neighbors will become aware of it. Once this is known, he will become the object of constant observation. Main courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, and develop self-restraint. Most officers are prepared to face physical danger, and the public expect it. This is due to the fact that when most people think of police work, they think of high-speed chases with guns blazing and similar situations in which the officer's life is in constant danger. In a democratic, a police officer is a public officer and as such is a servant to the community. Instead of being above reproach or ridicule, he must expect to receive his position as part of his job. It is not easy to control his temper when being subjected to unnecessary and unjustified scorn or ridicule. Whatever I hear or see of a confidential nature of that is confided to me. In my official capacity will be kept secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. Some officers feel that there is a difference in that the information obtained by the doctor and attorney is freely given with the understanding that it will be confidential, whereas the information obtained as part of the law enforcement officer can be a result of so many sources of forms of investigation. I will never permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships that will influence my decisions. It is quite difficult to know which desire is stronger in some person, to help our friends or to hurt our enemies. Both desires are part of our human nature. Helping our friends can be a very good thing in self, but then it involves an iniquity in the administrative of justice. We are defiling the oath we made to the community in which we serve. In police work, there is ample opportunity to both hurt enemies and help friends, and it takes person of strong character to properly perform his duty under these circumstances. Without professional convictions, this can be impossible. I will never act officiously. One of the faults that is common to new officers is that they often act officiously. They appear to the public to be overimpressed with their own importance. In a way, this is natural because it is associated with pride, and a new officer is usually very proud when he first put his uniform and badge. With no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of criminals, I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately, without fear or favor, malice or ill will. The term with no compromise for crimes means that crime will not be knowing permitted. It does not mean that the officer must perform his duties to the letter of the law without taking into consideration the spirit of law. No one can predict or guarantee the final result of any ethical. Only God can do this. Man can only be responsible of his immediate actions. If an officer does a good job and the criminal is released by the courts, the blame rests not upon him but upon the courts, the jury, or society itself. I will never employ unnecessary force or violence. At times, the use of force in the performance of one's duties is an absolutely necessity. There is no escaping it. It is extremely difficult to judge exactly or not. The use of force used in a particular situation was necessary or not. The use of force or violence during interrogations will often produce immediate confessions, but it should be avoided on ethical grounds in that the interrogator seldom knows with a complete certainty that suspect is guilty, and the use of force or the third degree on an innocent person is certainly a miscarriage of justice as well as a violation of professional conduct. I will never accept gratitude. Gratuities take two main forms. First is the gratuity given by a person with the sole intent of receiving something in return. Second, that is given solely but of a respect of law enforcement and the job that the police officer are doing. To be truly professional, we must first be ethical. We must do what is actually desirable, not merely what we would like to be desirable. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of police service. This is the most overlooked and forgotten phase of law enforcement by the men of the field. It is that enables an officer to follow the difficulties and problems that the held at times so frustrating and discouraging. Police officer must understand that he is one of a selected few. Officer should also understand that any personal reward will not be obtained from the public itself. For the public is a difficult master. If there is to be personal reward, it can only come from the job itself or from knowing the significance of the job and the essential role that plays in a society. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen professions, law enforcement. Proficiency in law enforcement involves many factors. It involves mental, moral, and physical conditioning. They are all important aspects. The officer who let himself slip physically is certainly not able to protect society. The officer who is in good physical condition has more confidence in his ability, and this is sensed by those whom he deals, and as a result, the finds that is necessary to exert authority as much as might be otherwise. However, knowing and understanding the code of ethics is not enough. It must actually be practiced. It must be lived.